what never ceases to amaze me is how, when you're feeling your lowest and life really isn't going well for you, and it doesn't matter what age you are, you can be 6 years old, 7 years old, 20, 15, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. You are having a particularly down day or week or month or year, and people turn around and say to you, oh, life's not so bad, chin up, look on the bright side. And all you're thinking is, yeah, no, I don't want to do this. It doesn't work for me. I'm not that person. I get it. I get your frustration. I get where you're coming from. I can't feel what you are feeling. I know how I feel. I could use the paradigm of a headache. Many people never have a headache. And one day they have a headache and they think, oh my goodness, my head is pounding. It feels like a jackhammer is pounding through my skull. And then you have people who live with headaches. They live with migraines. And they're functional. They have this constant pounding vice-like grip on their brain, their head, and they live through it without showing any form of symptom because they basically become used to it. But you look around and you see there's so many people out there who are happy. And from your perspective, because it is your perspective, it looks like their life is going well. And hell, it may be. It may be going well. They may have aced that exam. They may have studied sufficiently and had enough time to study to be able to pass the test, to be able to move to a different grade in college or whatever schooling system you're in. They may have completed their degree. But you need to remember that everybody has some form of unhappiness at some stage in their day, week, month, or year. Life is not all about sunshine and roses. It's not rainbows and unicorns. There are ups and there are downs. There are some downs that are more down than others, and there are some ups that are more up than others. And depending on your circumstance and depending on your own mindset will depend on how you cope with that particular emotion that you're going through on that particular day. So it's all good and well for me to sit here and say, oh, chin up, tomorrow will be a better day. Tomorrow may be worse. It may be worse. You could wake up and find you've slept askew and you've damaged your neck and now your legs no longer work. So it can get worse. You may already be paralyzed from the neck down, in which event it probably can't get worse. But yeah, from a standpoint of who is better off and who is worse off, whose life looks better and whose life looks worse, the operative word is looks. So you see happy, loving couples walking down the street, and they seem to be joking and laughing, and it all seems absolutely great on the outside. And when those people are behind closed doors, the wife may be screaming and yelling at the husband. She may be beating her husband. And I'm using gender terms. Please, this isn't gender specific. It could be a male wife with a male husband, a female wife with a female husband. Those people in the public eye may behave the way they've been coached to behave. So you see what people want you to see. I look at the narcissistic abuser, and I'm not diagnosing narcissism. One of the core things with narcissistic abuse is that nobody can see what happens behind closed doors. Nobody can see the absolute nightmare the person on the receiving end of the narcissistic abuse is receiving. In the public eye, in front of friends, in front of other people. It doesn't even matter whether those people are known or not known. That person could come across as charming, polite, generous, gregarious, loving. They have this facade that they display to the rest of the world. And you see this and you think, gee, that person is so lucky to have that partner, because that partner really cherishes them. That partner is really kind to them. That partner really helps them. Look how gentlemanly or womanly that partner is. And at the end of the day, they get into their car or they get into their private space, and everything is completely different. Everything is a nightmare. And the person on the receiving end battles to convince anybody what is actually happening, because people react based upon their own experience. So if I've never been abused by a narcissist, I've never been on the receiving end, I cannot imagine what it is like. I cannot imagine what the recipient of the abuse is actually going through, what they are actually surviving on a day-to-day basis. Very much like a person who's been sexually abused or physically battered. Unless you've been through that specific circumstance, you will never understand or know exactly what that person is going through. It's just the way the human mind works. People say, I have empathy. I feel sympathy for you now that I know that your wife was beating you. I'm using wife because normally people say it's a man that beats a woman, or a man that beats a weaker man, or a strong woman who beats a weaker woman. Ultimately, you cannot know what that person feels like. You cannot know how that person is broken down by the constant abuse, how their concept of self becomes shattered, and ultimately how difficult it is to get out of that type of situation. People often say, she should have left him long ago. He's been beating her up for years. And that's all good and well. Yeah. How does she survive? How does she afford to live when she doesn't know how to? And that is the point that I'm trying to make here. It's all good and well. I say to you, try whatever it is you want to try. The worst that can happen is that you fail. And a failure is only a failure if you don't try. If you at least attempt to do something and it doesn't work out, you can learn from it. And in learning from it, you can do something different, and you can possibly modify what you're doing, become better at what you want to do, so that one day you are able to do it better. And the same applies in an abuse situation. In an abuse situation, the person tries to survive the situation, and then they do various things in order to try and get out of that situation. And every so often you'll find the abused will leave the situation and then go back. And you think, how stupid is that person? Why would they go back? Why? Well, they go back because they tried and it didn't work for them, for whatever reason. It could be financial, it could be circumstantial, it could be the simplest thing, such as, I'm used to this. I understand this. Better the devil you know than the devil you don't know. That is how simplistic it can be. And at the end of the day, the reasoning behind it is neither here nor there. The reasoning is, she went back, or he went back, for whatever reason. They went back. And one day, they will try again, and the circumstance will be different. They will have learnt, they will have prepared better, they will have figured out a way to do it that works for them so that when they leave, they are able to succeed. And that is exactly what this entire story of life is about. You know, you sit there and think to yourself, or should I say I sit there and think, I will never amount to much. I will never succeed. I will never be able to do what I need to do in order to be successful. And the question is, what is your measure of success? Is your measure of success $50 million, rand, yen, whatever currency you're living in? Or is your measure of success preventing one person from taking their life? Giving one person, just one person, the courage to try and leave an abusive situation. Because if you succeed in convincing one person that yes, life is difficult, life is hard, but it's worth it. If you succeed in convincing one person, then you are a success. That is the bottom line. It's not how much money you make out of it. It's not the accolades you get from it. It's not people lifting you up and putting you on a podium and praising you for what you have done. I mean, don't get me wrong, that would be nice. I would love to have $50 million in my bank account. Well, I wouldn't particularly like it in my bank account, but yeah. So realistically, you need to look at your circumstance, your feeling of complete despair, and see what you can try to do to make it a little bit better. And I'm not saying a giant bit better, just a little bit better. You know, depression is a funny beast. You wake up in the morning, you don't want to be around. You don't want to do anything. In fact, getting out of bed can be hard. And it depends on the level of depression that you've reached. And I was going to say allowed yourself to reach, but it depends on the level of depression that you've reached. How far down the rabbit hole have you gone? How badly has your brain turned everything so that you are feeling complete and utter despair? And how long has it been going on for? And if you think about it, and you think, well, what is one small thing that I can do that may make me feel a little bit better? Maybe it's brushing your teeth. Maybe it's washing your face. Maybe it's getting out of your bed and sitting on the floor next to your bed, or sitting on top of your bed instead of inside your bed. And those baby steps are what is going to make the difference. Because at the end of the day, were you put onto this planet for no apparent reason? Did all the genes and energies and everything that you may or may not believe in conspire to create you as nothing, as something that was completely dispensable? Is the stress and the unhappiness that you feel at what you are going through worth your life, worth the most minute chance that you could actually be happy, you could actually find joy, you could actually smile again? And yeah, people say fake it till you make it. They say, oh, you need to smile. Well, when you don't feel like smiling, you're not going to smile, and you can put a smile on your face, it's not going to change it. But if you look outside the window and you hear a bird singing, bearing in mind, I'm hoping you don't have a headache, because sometimes bird song with a headache is a shrill noise that penetrates every fiber of one's being. But if you look out your window and you hear a bird, is there not a minute glimmer that things could be better? And ultimately, if you do that one tiny little thing every day for a week, will it be easier to do another tiny little thing until eventually you start managing to get through what you need to get through in order to allow yourself to feel happiness? Because ultimately it is allowing yourself to feel happiness. It's not it's not an external force that is on top of you, unless you've been possessed by a demon, in which event perhaps you need an exorcism. I'm kidding. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But think about it from the perspective of, if you make a tiny, tiny, tiny little change, a tiny change, instead of eating a dry, stale piece of bread, put a little bit of butter on it if you have. Put a little bit of jam on it if you have. Would that make a very small difference to your life? Would thinking mindfully, as opposed to in the dark despair of your mind, make a tiny difference? Because at the end of it all, you were put on this planet for a reason. There's got to be a reason. There's got to be a reason that there are over 7 billion human beings on this planet, that there are many, 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 many billions of other creatures on this planet. It can't possibly be that everyone and everything is here for nothing. There's got to be a reason for it. And if you can find your reason, wouldn't your life become worth it? Would you, perhaps be able to find joy in your life? Would you perhaps be able to smile once in a while? Would life get a little bit better for you? And what if you making that tiny little change leads to you figuring out that you actually do count, figuring out that you make a difference, that everybody and everything is connected in some way. And ultimately, what if you decide to end it all today and everything ends up spectacularly wrong because you have done that? And no, I'm not putting this on you. That is not a guilt trip. That is a thought. Think. And yes, I know, when you're in that state, I've been there from my perspective. I know where my brain goes. I know where my heart goes. I know how dark I can become. So, from my perspective, a tiny change can make a difference. And all it takes is one person, just one person, to notice. So think about it. What if you count? What if you count?